The new mini-set Heroes of StarCraft is a critical step in addressing the current challenges in Hearthstone. After the failure of the Great Dark Beyond and the cyclical accumulation of issues in the meta, I had high hopes for the first full-fledged crossover in the game's history. In my imagination, this was an excellent opportunity to introduce unique mechanics, bring back traditional thing and create unpredictable gameplay styles. However, all we got was an increased mini-set price and questionable mechanics. Unlike me, the math guys seem thrilled with what they've seen. It's time for a debate to weigh the strengths and weaknesses of this new mini-set.
Time to rock and roll!
Hello my friends. My name is Bot Mathematician and this is Holomancer.
Also, Chief Investigative Reporter Dora joined us this evening.
Gadgets and Gazette always gets the scoop.
Unlike Dora, we're far more optimistic about the potential of this mini-set in the StarCraft universe. In fact, I believe this might be one of the best mini-sets in Hearthstone's history, given its potential to shape new deck-building strategies.
But discussing the price increase and the mini-set's potential is incredibly intriguing. Before diving into the details, we'd like to extend special thanks to Davey for providing an exclusive subtitle adaptation for our Brazilian viewers. Obrigado. For everyone else, feel free to use auto-translation features.
Let's start with the hottest and most baffling issue. Once again, Blizzard is leveraging a major announcement to raise the game's cost. When the community learned the set would include more cards, many assumed the price would increase as well. Personally, I expected the price to scale with the addition of more high-rarity cards, but Blizzard surprised us. The price jump is significant, from $15 to $20 for the standard version and from $70 to $80 for the golden version. Players now need 2,500 gold instead of 2,000. But Blizzard simply added more low-rarity cards. We're getting 8 more commons and 3 more rares, yet we're paying an additional $5.
We conducted some simple calculations to compare the value of previous mini-sets to this one. For the traditional $15 price tag, players used to receive 176 dust per dollar invested, making it one of the most cost-effective ways to acquire crafting dust. From a collection standpoint, the crafting value was equivalent to 792 dust.
Despite the stark price difference, the golden version of the mini-set shows a similar return on investment. This demonstrates once again that Hearthstone's resources are meticulously calculated and balanced, and the pricing is far from arbitrary. The standard version of Heroes of StarCraft, however, shows a sharp drop in value. If you're purchasing it to obtain dust, your benefit decreases by nearly 20%. From a crafting value perspective, you're now getting cards worth 656 dust per dollar, which is 17% less compared to previous mini-sets.
An interesting nuance is the preservation of value for the golden version of the mini-set. Its crafting value even increases by 5%. But this doesn't change the fact that whales are still forced to pay more to expand their golden card collections. It's impossible to ignore that the standard version of the mini-set has become significantly less appealing due to its inflated price. To maintain the previous value for players, the team should have increased the cost by $1.50 instead of $5. This price hike feels entirely unjustified.
We completely agree that the price increase is unwarranted. However, it's worth mentioning that buying mini-sets primarily for crafting dust was previously too advantageous. The price adjustment balances this option, stripping it of its uniqueness and making it one of many good offers instead.
That said, we traditionally stand against manipulative tactics that make the game more expensive. In our previous video, we conducted some unusual calculations to determine the viability of free-to-play players in accessing the most effective decks. Honestly, the results surprised us. For years, we've argued that the game is fair and doesn't restrict competitive opportunities for dedicated players. On paper, everything looks great, but in reality, the options available to players were fewer than we expected. Meanwhile, the situation for new and returning players is exceptionally difficult, even with significant reward increases.
The price hike feels especially cynical given the reduction in rewards for weekly quests in November. If the rewards had stayed the same, the increased cost would have been more than offset by the weekly quest earnings. In addition, a new mythic skin is expected to be priced at $60, along with signature variants for hero cards, which will also likely be extremely expensive. Apparently, it's not enough for the management to sell exclusive cosmetics at outrageous prices to showcase financial success. They're also trying to reduce rewards while simultaneously increasing the cost of collecting. I understand that an extra 500 gold or $5 isn't catastrophic. Most rational players won't feel a significant impact of this price, but not everyone is in an ideal situation. For less active players or those who aren't as strategic in resource management, even a small increase in costs can diminish their experience and limit their gameplay options.
We understand the reasoning behind the current strategy and the challenging situation managers find themselves in. According to mobile market data, Hearthstone is gradually losing financial efficiency compared to its less player-friendly competitors.
We've warned our audience that wild experiments with monetization will continue, as the chain of numerous past initiatives hasn't shown convincing financial growth. This is inevitable, and we should all expect even more risky decisions in the future, despite the recent success in China. We support management's efforts to find alternative ways to monetize. But our criticism is that the management is taking actions that are detrimental to the game and at the same time have no financial efficiency. There's no logic in their actions. One important unaddressed feature of the mini-set is the option to purchase individual factions for 1,200 gold coins or $10 each. At first glance, this seems reasonable, but in practice, you're essentially being offered 2 factions for the price of 3, which makes the deal far from appealing. This approach would make more sense if new and returning players were given 1 faction of their choice for free, with the option to buy additional ones as needed. However, the Hearthstone team appears to have a different vision. Instead of leveraging this exciting crossover as an opportunity to attract new and returning players with unique bonuses and building hype, the management does the opposite, raising the barrier to entry and punishing players for wanting to join. Instead of a cinematic trailer and a free game board, both of which would have at least intrigued StarCraft fans and added a unique atmosphere to the game, we're getting very expensive options. This approach once again demonstrates their focus on short-term revenue without a long-term strategy. Despite our criticisms, we genuinely wish the Hearthstone team success in boosting revenue through the new mini-set and mythic skin, breaking the cycle of poor decisions, and proving that their strategy works. We hope to be wrong because Heroes of StarCraft has enormous potential to be the best mini-set in the game's history and deserves great success.
Speaking of success, let's briefly discuss the importance of this mini-set at this moment. The deck tracker Firestone shared user engagement statistics for 2024, and I've supplemented this data with previous reports. We've talked about the trend of declining deck trackers users' activity, but the situation is more severe than we anticipated. According to the statistics, Firestone user engagement significantly dropped after Hearthstone's return to China. The peak audience interest for the Great Dark Beyond expansion was shockingly low, comparable to Murder at Castle Nathria 2 years ago. Moreover, engagement plummeted within a month of release. The statistics for Chinese servers are even more striking. Player time spent in the game decreased almost 4-fold since its return to national servers. This aligns with the sharp decline in iOS revenue in China. The gradual accumulation of design issues in the standard format, long delays in balance patches, and the unusually late release of the mini-set have exacerbated the situation significantly.
The community has high hopes that the Heroes of StarCraft mini-set will turn things around, reignite interest, and introduce new gameplay possibilities to bring fun back into the game. These expectations are well-founded.
The defining feature of this crossover set is the inclusion of canonical StarCraft factions. Cards are divided into 3 groups, each associated with specific Hearthstone classes: Zerg, Protoss, and Terran.
There's nothing particularly unique or interesting about this, as we've seen similar mechanics before in the mean streets of Gadgets and expansion. Essentially, dividing cards by faction makes neutral cards more narrowly focused and available only to certain classes, introducing additional restrictions.
I object. While the mechanic may be the same, the developer's approach has significantly evolved. In the Gadgets and expansion, we only received a handful of such cards, as the developers were overly cautious in implementing this concept.
Never seen multi-class cards fully realized. In the Heroes of StarCraft mini-set, this concept has evolved, offering numerous faction-based cards with powerful effects. These cards are isolated from being absorbed into other top strategies in the current meta, not due to their factional logos but because of their descriptions and linear synergies, which force you to use other new cards from the set. Within the mini-set concept, multi-class cards transform neutral cards into class-specific tools, significantly increasing the potential for new strategies. What Eudora see as a drawback is in fact a huge advantage.
What do you mean?
We often share with you our concerns regarding the implementation of the miniset concept in Hearthstone. Occasionally, we notice some benefits, but overall, we believe minisets do more harm than good. One significant drawback is their minimal impact on the meta.
Most minisets feel like a collection of disparate elements. Some parts are absorbed into existing decks, others are designed for short-term experiments and creative exploration. However, the most significant impact comes from a few cards that serve as missing puzzle pieces for strategies formed during previous expansions. For example, the Perils in Paradise miniset introduced Dunger Druid and Big Spell Mage, the only new strategies it offered. The fragmented nature of minisets is primarily due to their limited size. Only 3 class cards can't establish a new, unique way to play. Players need at least 5 to 6 components to form a new archetype based on linear synergy. The multi-class faction system in the Heroes of StarCraft miniset changes this trend dramatically. In addition to the traditional 3-class cards, there will be 5 more multi-class tools with strong synergies. Under these conditions, forming new gameplay styles becomes almost inevitable, meaning we could potentially see 11 new decks instead of just 2, as with Perils in Paradise.
Guys, you're being overly optimistic. Traditionally, not all classes manage to find viable uses for their tools. Most likely, each faction will have one competitive archetype, which won't significantly increase meta diversity. Let's briefly discuss the factions. Zerg aligned with Death Knight, Demon Hunter, Hunter, and Warlock classes. This faction emphasizes aggressive strategies, utilizing swarm tactics with numerous minion tokens and direct damage capabilities. Protoss represented by Druid, Mage, Priest, and Rogue classes. They focus on powerful, high-cost cards that can be played earlier than usual, enabling explosive bursts of power. Terran comprising Paladin, Shaman, and Warrior classes, they introduce starship synergies with the Battlecruiser, a special starship unique to these classes, enhancing their gameplay dynamics. Notably, these classes lacked synergy with the starship mechanic in the Great Dark Beyond. As a result, Mage is the only class without its own starship.
Within each group, strategies can vary significantly. For example, within the Terran faction, Paladin is offered token synergy, while Shaman and Warrior receive control tools with combo potential.
The most significant advantage of these new cards is their specificity. Strictly isolating cards within certain strategies is something modern Hearthstone desperately needs. Recently, cards have become too powerful and versatile for many scenarios, leading to their adoption across various strategies, a direct consequence of power creep. We even made a dedicated video analyzing the 2024 meta-defining cards with detailed statistics. We're thrilled that the new cards have minimal chances of enhancing existing top strategies. Instead, we're excited about the prospect of entirely new gameplay styles.
Guys, speaking of card specificity, you've already experienced this in the recent past. In the Great Dark Beyond, developers introduced broad synergy with a new creature type, Draenei. As you know, players failed to create a single viable archetype. Personally, I hoped Draenei would receive at least some support in the new mini-set, but that didn't happen. Similarly, isolated synergy with Starship also fell short of its potential. Despite its limitations, players managed to extract Arcanite Defense Crystal and find alternative use cases for it. Let's be honest, there's a significant chance the fate of isolated StarCraft factions will mirror the inglorious outcomes of previous strategies.
That's an excellent point. There's a possibility that isolating cards could have the opposite effect, resulting in even less impact than previous mini-expansions.
Or the opposite could occur, and new synergies might unexpectedly break the meta. A healthy competitive environment will directly depend on the developer's abilities and strategic vision. We have high hopes for the formation of a balanced meta.
I don't understand how you can talk about a healthy competitive environment when developers have filled this set with frustrating mechanics. Various mana cheat tools, the return of the charge mechanic, and the ability to destroy cards in an opponent's hand. These are among the most aggravating mechanics players hate. If the mini-set's impact comes from the dominance of these mechanics, such success could lead to a new wave of problems in the meta.
We share similar concerns.
In this case, we have no convincing arguments. We can only hope that the return of frustrating cards seems intimidating only on paper.
Let's move on to conclusions. Despite the advantages in approach, I don't believe the new cards will improve the situation. Moreover, I can only hope things won't worsen. I no longer feel negative emotions about yet another primitive manipulation with collection costs. I feel more exhausted. The release could have been more exciting with a free theme board, cinematics, and special bonuses for returning to the game. My main expectation for things to improve in the metagame is through rotation rather than mini-set releases.
We too remain committed to our point of view. Despite the shortcomings and the unjustified cost increase, we see significantly more advantages than disadvantages.
More cards, increased opportunities for each class, diversity within factions, plus hero cards. We really like the approach to design the developers used, and we can't wait to see the results it will lead to. Despite this, I agree with Dora's opinion. This release could have been incredible if the management had treated the original DNA of the game with care. I feel sad realizing how many important things we have completely lost this year and how much I miss them. That said, the promise of fresh strategies and innovative gameplay is something we can't ignore. While some decisions may feel misguided, this mini-set's potential to reinvigorate the meta and bring novelty to the game is significant. Now, it's up to the players to determine if this release will be remembered as a turning point or just another missed opportunity.
Let the audience have the final say in our debate. Dear friends, do you think the increase in set size and potential meta impact compensates for the rising cost?
Are you excited about this release?
Do you believe the new mini-set could positively influence the standard format? Do you like the faction separation and the isolated nature of the new cards?
Let us know your thoughts below and join the polls in your community tab. Remember to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon to support our content and stay updated.
Traditionally, we want to express our boundless gratitude to our sponsors.
Dear friends, your help is invaluable. We will be grateful for any support.
Okay, that's all for today. Thank you for spending this time with us. We really hope that we will have the opportunity to get in touch in the next video.
Take care of yourself.
And never give up.
Job's done.